So, hello everybody. This is the F-111CSB SN-5, and I've now returned after having done my flight tests with it. If you remember the last video, this was the upsized variant of the F-111CSB. We were moving from 50% scale with the SN-4 family to 65% scale with SN-5, hoping that we get extra lift from the larger wings, that this thing will actually fly correctly. However, shortly before I even did the flight tests, I finally got my scale, which you can see right here, so I can precisely measure things now. And I already saw that at the weight of 500 grams, including everything, including the battery, I was only seeing about 280 grams of thrust. Now, that's not what this was supposed to deliver. The EDFs in here were supposed to deliver around 400 grams of thrust. However, for whatever reason, and I'm not entirely sure if that even is the plane design, it might be one of the ESCs, because I'm pretty sure one of the ESCs has now killed one of my EDFs, which we'll get into. But for whatever reason, I was only seeing 280 grams of thrust, which was a bit concerning. I still decided to go ahead with the flight tests. And, I mean, you see the plane came back in two pieces, because it did crash. I crashed it. It's my fault that the plane crashed because I went into a turn that was way too aggressive and it crashed. Because, well, the measurement of the low thrust that I took seems to have been accurate. There was not a whole lot of thrust coming out of this plane, and while it did fly, it was mostly flying in ground effect, very low to the ground, and when I tried to make a turn, I overturned and it stalled and, well, the nose hit the ground. Like, this can be glued back together, it's fine, but it's just not enough thrust. So, I'm going with the plan that I had already formulated the moment I saw that low thrust reading. We're upsizing again. We're going from 65% scale to 75%, so it's not gonna be quite as big of a difference as SN4 to SN5. It's gonna be a size increase of 15%, as opposed to 30% increase from the last one. So it's gonna be a little bit bigger, because we are moving from 30mm to 40mm EDFs. Everything else still stays the same. Well, I'm replacing the ESCs because I don't trust them anymore, but yeah, the main idea remains the same. We will potentially be able to fit a larger battery. I'm not really sure about that, and I don't currently plan to do it. We'll just see how the center of gravity works out. But yeah, essentially the idea is do all of this again because it basically worked. Just get more thrust from more powerful, larger EDFs. And because those EDFs are a bit larger, we're upsizing the plane to fit those EDFs a little bit better. So that's what we're gonna do for SN6. And yeah, there's a few new things with SN5 that I wanna go over. All of these things worked pretty well. Like, it did fly now, just in ground effect, because there wasn't a lot of thrust. Like, if we had like a catapult, this probably would have flown, you know, just fine. But we don't. We have to throw them by hand. And yeah, so let's take a look at SN5. Before we continue, I'd like to thank my sponsor, PCBWay. If you are working on a project of your own that requires parts that would be hard to make yourself, or just generally parts at a much higher quality standard, you can go to PCBWay's website and order anything from PCB prototypes, assemblies, CNC parts, 3D printed parts, as well as stencils or even flexible circuit boards. The ordering process is simple. You just upload your files, tell them some stuff that you need, and you'll quickly receive a quote, which once accepted, will mean that your part can get shipped out within as fast as 24 hours. And if you have any questions or require further help, they even have a live chat service that stands ready for you. So if you need some custom-made project parts, don't delay, go to PCBWay today. First of all, the wings are static on this one. Like all of my development models, I don't include a swing wing in the flying ones because first I just want to get it flying. I don't really see the point in including this extra system that adds weight and complexity to the plane before I even know that the plane is gonna fly. So all of the development models until we achieve like proper full flight are gonna have static wings like this. And what static wing means is, if I take out these plugs, this is what static wing means. So yeah, it's just slotted in. Still the same wings, just 30% bigger. It's still a NACA 2412 profile, and the wings are pretty long. It's based on the F-111C, but these wings are still a little bit longer than on the F-111C because I want that lift. So yeah, that's the wings out. That's gonna make the plane a lot easier to move around. And yeah, I updated the design of the hatch a little bit. It now has these little teeth so it can slot in, and you can see there were points for magnets here. We didn't have those, we just used a rubber band around this little fin to keep the hatch closed. That also works. And here you get access to the battery compartment, which has a bunch of stuff in it. I already removed the receiver, which you can see over here. But yeah, this at the current scale is actually large enough to fit the receiver and the battery side by side in it. The old one just barely fit the battery in it, but the larger one now fits everything just fine. The only problem is that the cable for the XT60 is a bit short because they were sized for the SN-4 version, because I just reused the electronics as is. That also means that the nose is now completely empty. There is nothing inside. You could potentially like mount an FPV plate here instead of the cockpit plate, which I've also changed to now include the actual cockpit windows. And it's just being held on by these bits of steel wire that are stuck through the holes and then bent, so this doesn't fall off. And yeah, one really nice thing about this here is that the center of gravity is a lot more forgiving on this larger model than the SN4 models. On the SN4 models, the battery had to be shoved all the way back, like it was basically already here. And that was of course going to be really bad because it interfered with the airflow in the air ducting, and also the swing wing, well, sits in this exact area, so that was never going to work. On this newer model though, the center of gravity has changed so that the battery can sit all the way around here. So that's really nice. We can now fit the swing wing and the battery just fine. That was something I was a little bit concerned about after SN4 was so bad about this. But this works just fine, and I'm assuming that the next larger SN6 is hopefully going to continue this trend. Then you can also see we no longer have the servos in the top because they have moved down to the sides. So the servos now sit here, and you can see all the stuff spilling out. So they now sit in the side, which is where the full-scale model has the landing gear. So there's already a bunch of space there that can be utilized, and yeah, I put the servos there. It just looks better now. We also have these extra air inlets here, which they did work. It was very apparent, like when you put the EDFs on, you could feel the air going through this, but I think I'm going to slightly change the design. I'm going to make it so that there are less slits, and then make them a bit wider, because I feel like the grill is a bit too fine to really have a lot of airflow through it at the moment, after I took a look at similar designs on other airplanes that probably have a bit more R&D put into them, other than me going like, this looks alright, and then putting it in. And yeah, so we still don't have a rudder, it's static with the mini VARC, and then the elevons have the exact same design as they did on SN4. That worked just fine, and they have plenty of control. Like, this doesn't move by that much, like you can see. It's not that much, but holy damn, they are effective, they are big. This plane rolls just fine, despite the elevons being pretty close to the center of the fuselage. And the elevator is even more effective, because these are giant elevons. So you don't have to be worried about putting your rates really high for these, because it's really effective. And then for the EDFs, there's another piece coming out. We have one new thing, and that's these thrust tubes. So basically what these do is they constrict the diameter of the airflow path a bit, and this, at least what I saw based on other designs I saw, should increase the thrust a bit, and it does. We tested this, we had the plane set up on the table, and without these you could put it to full throttle and it wouldn't move. With these in, you put it to full throttle and it flies off the table. So yeah, these lead to a pretty significant thrust increase, which is why I'm keeping these around. Sadly, as you can see, is so you look at this EDF and you see all the fan blades, and you look at this EDF and there's no fan blades because the fan blades are down here on the desk. I don't know why. I powered it up a few hours ago by setting it up because I wanted to show the effect of it, like being able to push itself off the table, and for some reason, before even my receiver did anything, like before the thing fully powered up, that one EDF went full power and exploded. I don't know why it did that, I have no idea, but I'm starting to blame the ESC. Because the ESCs I used in here, they are like very cheap AliExpress ones, and they've been giving me problems already with like losing their calibration and like not working consistently and all that stuff, so I've decided to replace them, and especially after this incident of destroying one of my EDFs, yeah, it's gonna go. I ordered a replacement parts for the EDF, like the motor's still fine, just the blade part needs to be replaced, and I also ordered some new ESCs, so yeah, and that's gonna be all the new stuff for SN-5. So yeah, we did crash the plane because the 30mm EDFs, they're just not quite that strong. That or the ESCs were interfering with them to like not get them up to full power. I'm not entirely sure. I can maybe test once I have the new ESCs, because this should be enough airflow. Like the air inlets, I've made them pretty large. They are way larger than on the original, plus it has this extra airflow down here. Plus this is 30% larger than what I originally intended the air ducting to be. So like these EDFs should have had plenty of airflow. I don't really know how the air ducting design could have reduced the thrust, so I'm leaning more towards the ESCs doing something weird and not being able to handle the EDF properly. I don't know. Maybe that's why we got low thrust. Maybe that's why one of them exploded. I don't really know. I'll have to wait for the new parts, and that will probably take a couple weeks. And also my university lectures are beginning again, so I'll have to see what I'm doing. Also, it's autumn now, and soon it will be winter, and it's not flying weather anyway, so I'll have to see what I'll do. And with that, I think that would be it with this update on the F-111CSB. I'd love to show you a more positive image here, but yeah, like the plane flew this time, and it could have gone on indefinitely, like flying at low altitude, that's fine. It's just that, you know, I want a bit more power. If it was just the ESCs, that would be really cool, because then this design would just work. But I really want to move on to the 40mm EDFs, and then we'll have plenty of power, like assuming the air ducting isn't the problem, we'll have like close to a 2-to-1 thrust to weight. I don't think it's gonna be quite that good, but yeah, those 40mm EDFs, they produce more than twice the amount of thrust than the 30mm ones, because you know, they're 25% bigger, and they also have 12 blades rather than 6 blades. They also draw twice the power, so you can't just run these full throttle all the time, or your flight time will be like 1.5 minutes. But yeah, we'll see what we'll do. And in the meantime, I'll sit on the CAD for SN6. It's actually close to being done. Like, there isn't much to do. It's just increase size by 15%, resize the holes for stuff like carbon rods and the servo holders, and the rest is just print the parts. So yeah, SN6, if the weather's good, if I have time, sometime soon. Also depends on when the stuff gets here. And until then, there will be other projects, one of which you can already see in the back right there. And yeah, I have plenty of stuff planned, and now I finally have some time to turn them into videos. So yeah, I'm planning to do a few more videos than I did lately. Anyway, I'm stretching this out again, and I'd just like to say thank you for watching now, and until next time, goodbye.